Have you ever had trouble getting your spending under control for things like groceries, eating out, clothing, gas, things that you and your spouse often need to be in alignment on, but it's maybe hard to do, or just you and a significant other if you're budgeting with another person, or maybe it's even just difficult for you. Maybe you're budgeting by yourself. And it's really hard to get alignment across those different categories of expenses. In this video, I want to share with you just a little bit about how we've handled that in our family and show you a new way that I think is going to be transformational for you in how you think about these expenses. Now, this all started because of this Facebook post that I shared in the You Need a Budget, the YNAB fans page on Facebook. And I just basically told a little bit of mine and my wife's story. It's like we got alignment together when we started with Dave Ramsey in 2016 in terms of philosophical alignment, but we never really could get on the same page in terms of the daily spending. You know, I'm definitely the nerd of the family, and for us, it's like I'm checking the budget pretty often, but my wife doesn't really check the budget very often and doesn't really want to, and that's okay. Every family dynamic is a little bit different, but we needed to figure out for us how we could stay on the same page together with these kind of expenses. And so what we did was came up with a system for actually changing how we look at the budget, how we look at that frequent spending. And what I wanted is for YNAB to actually be able to give me a system where it had all of the regular spending accounted for that we would need to do, like all of our sinking funds. We could still save up for Christmas. We could still save up for gift. We would still pay all of our subscriptions when they came due, our mortgage and the other monthly bills. So we wanted YNAB to handle all of that math for us, while at the same time having a number that was left over and safe to spend for those frequent expenses so that we could get alignment on our spending for those that didn't necessarily need to be in a category. That's what we have set up, and due to the popularity of that post, I have been asked over and over again to make a video explaining how this works. And so I want to show you this system, and I think it's going to change things for you if you will apply it. So there are a couple of basic steps to this system, and just let's see, keep everything closed up here and really easy to see what we're doing. These are all of my categories in YNAB. So I've got a category for focusing, credit card payments, frequent, bills, non-monthly, goals, lifestyle, and then I have a wish farm as well. And before I expand it here, I want to just show you the big difference. So we used to have in this frequent category probably 6 or 7 other categories. Things like pets, groceries, eating out, gas, personal care, and there was a couple others. And it was a lot of different categories to keep track of. Now, I like to have lots of categories. So if I were just to expand everything out real quick and just scroll through here, you can see it's not that I don't have a minimal amount of categories. I have a good amount of categories, and I like for things to be in their own place. But it's really hard to get alignment on spending on those daily expenses if you have that. And so what we did was something radical. So I'm just going to expand out frequent. And you'll see that frequent only has 2 categories. 2 categories. So this is a category group called frequent. And then we have 2 categories within frequent, safe to spend and safe to spend holding. And so there's 2 things that we discovered throughout this process that made it change how we look at things. The first thing we discovered is that a week is just about the max amount of time that it makes sense for us to get context of our spending. If you assign an amount to a category and you're looking at it in the context of a month or even multiple weeks, a lot of times it can be hard to do that mental math that you have to do in the back of your mind to get alignment around that. Okay. And to understand, oh, if I spend this money today, then I don't have it next week. I don't have it the next week. I don't have it the next week. You know, in a 4 or 5 week month, that gets out of control really quickly. And for us, even though I pay myself in my business twice per month, even that 2 weeks is a long time for me. And so I like to keep it at a week. So that's why we have a holding category so that I only put what I need for any given week in here. Now, as I'm recording this here, I pay myself again tomorrow, and this will all get replenished. I will give myself, let's see, 400 times 3. I will give myself tomorrow $1,200 for these categories. 400 of it will go right into safe to spend for the next week, and then 800 will go into the holding category, so that for the next 2 weeks, since this is a 5-week month, we will have all of the money that we actually need to be able to get this taken care of. Okay. And this has created lots of alignment for us. As I told in this post here on the YNAB group in Facebook, we had this conversation the other day that was like, babe, I think I need some new pot holders. That's what she said as she was getting food out of the oven. And then she said, next week, with a smile. And what was going on there? What was going on there is that we have been able to get alignment around one number that is what I call safe to spend. So let's go here and look at that. Safe to spend, okay? This is the number that is safe to spend until we get paid again the next week on those daily frequent expenses. And this has changed everything for us. So the first thing was that a month is too long. The second thing is that 6 or 7 categories to get alignment, especially with a spouse around or even to keep in your mind, is just too many. And maybe that's not true for some people, but for a lot of people, I think it is. Most people understand the principle of checking the bank balance, right? And seeing, I only have this much money, therefore I can only spend this much money. And that works for a lot of people. The problem is you have to do so much mental math because none of the other math is done around your other categories, around your monthly subscriptions, around your savings goals. But YNAB does all that math for you. So if you can get all that math done by YNAB and then have a number left over that you can spend against, and that's the safe to spend number, then that changes everything for you. So those are the two foundational premises of it. But there's one more thing that really makes it work, and that is the widget. Okay, so there is a widget on my phone, and I also have it on my computer. And I'll just show you a little bit about that here. So what I'm going to do is actually hide this, and I am going to bring up my widgets here on my Mac. And the way that we do that is by right-clicking and saying Edit Widgets. And then you can come down here and search. And you search for YNAB, and you see you have this option called Category Balance. So what I'm going to do is just click on the plus button and add that right here to my screen. Once you have that added, you can see it here. What we want to do is right-click on that and say Edit YNAB. And then you get to choose which category that you want. And so I'm going to choose the category Safe to Spend, and then done. And now what we have is that number front and center. And you can add this on your phone. You can add this on your Mac. You can add it into various different places that you want to. But when you have this one number that you're looking at, it's on your phone. It can be on your spouse's phone as well if you're using YNAB together, or if she's logged into the same just general account as you. It could be right here on your Mac computer. It could be on your iPad. If you have an Android phone, widgets also work on Android as well. But this number stays in front of us all the time. And when you're on your iPhone and you want to just enter a transaction, or presumably this is true on Android as well, you literally would just click on the widget. Now that doesn't work here because on a Mac you have to open the iPhone to continue because there's not a native YNAB app for Mac. But when you're on your iPhone, you can just click on that, enter the transaction right there, and now you don't even have to record spending against multiple transactions. Probably one of the biggest criticisms of this approach that I'm likely to get is, but it doesn't give you the visibility into the multiple different categories, okay? And I understand that. There's a couple ways that you can get around that, okay? Number one is more philosophical, right? The first way around that is just, does it really matter? The purpose of YNAB is not really for reporting, for historical data usage and things of that nature, right? I don't really care what I spent on groceries last December. I don't need to report against that. It doesn't matter. I don't care what I spent on restaurants last December. What I care about is that I stuck within my budget that I set, that I aligned my spending with my priorities and didn't make decisions in the moment that were bad for my future self, okay? Yes, YNAB has a whole philosophy around rolling with the punches. Okay, that's fine, right? At the same time, you can roll with the punches too much, and that's what we were doing. So that's one way to handle it. Another way to handle it is a little bit more work, but there was a suggestion given inside of that Facebook post from the way that another person does it. And let me just illustrate that here. Basically, this is the way that they do it. They would create a category right here that they called allowance. And then they would come here and say, let's just say groceries and eating out. And I just spelled that wrong. Oops, eating out too. This is just for demonstration purposes anyway. Okay. However, this is going to drive me nuts. Groceries too. Okay. So what they would do is they would say, I'm going to put 50 bucks or 100 bucks, whatever, in my allowance category. And then if I spend money out of eating out, let's go to our transactions and enter a transaction into checking, and it's going to be, let's say, McDonald's, and it's going to be in groceries, or excuse me, in eating out, and it's for 10 bucks outflow. Okay, that's done. Now when I go here, I notice that eating out too is overspent by $10. That's totally fine because the money to carry it is an allowance. So I would just come right here, cover this overspending with allowance, and then it's done. So now I only have $90 in allowance, but it's still just that one number. So that is a way that you can have the sort of fidelity of the individual categories and looking at what you spent in those different areas, but then also have the one number for you to look at and make sure that you're on the same page. The reality is either one of these ways works, but I have to tell you, for me, it's so much less stressful just to have the one category, to only spend against the one category. I don't really care where my spending is in across the other categories. For me, that's not very important. I just want to make sure that I'm staying within that number. So hopefully you find this to be a helpful hack for you to actually get your groceries and your eating out and your frequent spending and your clothing and all of that under control in YNAB. If you found this video helpful, I am planning on trying to make some more videos like this. So please hit the subscribe button, like this video so that other people can find it as well. And I would be really appreciative of that. And if you find that this is helpful, comment, let me know about it. And if you have more questions, let me know about it. I want this channel, if we decide to do anything with it, to grow it, to be something that helps a lot of people in the future with hacks, how-tos, and help with YNAB. So I would love that. Remember, before you spend, okay? Take care. God bless. We'll see you guys in another video, hopefully.